Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm back again with the clickbait. And, I really like the discussions we have online because it really just shows, even to the most aware or somewhat awakened people, they still fall into the same patterns of toxic thinking that someone you'd call an NPC would continue to fall down under. It's really shocking. It's not even shocking anymore to see that somebody's so convicted in their beliefs that any other alternative is unthinkable. Like they can't even conceive of it because they know the truth, right? For us as antinatalists, it's not like, we can say, yes, this is the fundamental truth of this reality and so on and so forth, but yeah, for us, I guess it makes sense for us. It makes sense for, most people to not have kids. It makes sense for us to not put more and more humans into this psychopathic realm. It might not make sense to the people who are in the ruling class, though, even though, because they're dehumanized by their wealth and their status, a lot of them just still have the same problems, the same relationship, emotional, developmental problems that we have, right? It's just that they have all the facilities and even more facilities to be able to deal with it, but it still doesn't fill those gaps or those holes in their mind or in their personality or in their life, right? And one thing that, you know, for all we know about psychology, or discussions surrounding psychology and mental health, mental illness, it hasn't empowered most of the people who discuss it. If anything, it's made them even more mentally pathological in their interactions with other people, in their social interactions. And it sounds convoluted, but just take it as, you know, see how people throw around the word narcissist all the time. This guy is narcissist, that person is narcissist. Like, men aren't all narcissists, women are all narcissists, right? You ask them what even constitutes as narcissism, because you know it's a clinical disorder. If somebody is actually a narcissist, it's a clinical disorder. It's like saying that all these people are out here like are diseased or something, while or like a bacterial or a viral disorder, right? But you can't back it up, right? But you're just saying that they're all this or all that, and you don't even know what the hell you're even talking about, right? Because everybody is on that spectrum of narcissism, everyone. And there is a level of narcissism that is actually healthy for you, right? A level of self-esteem and self-confidence and self-love, that type of narcissism. It is narcissism, but it's healthy for you, literally. I can't remember the actual term for it, but yeah. So, you have people throwing around these words like narcissist back and forth to one another, or it's usually just that one, right? They don't really do so much psychopath as much anymore. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The armchair psychologist types will throw around sociopath, right? And in me saying that this world needs more psychopaths,
when you ask this question, be ready for some answers. And I just basically said, tell me what you really think of me. Now, and I said, I won't get mad, I won't do anything. And I started with the psychiatrist who knew me for many years and who knew my behaviors. And then I went on to my family and very close friends, and they all said the same thing. They said, well, you're pretty much close to being a psychopath. We've been telling you for years. I said, no, you said I was crazy. I said, you're not crazy. He said, but all these things, and they went through these specific behaviors. And when I saw them all there, it kind of hit me. Then I got, analyzed, psychoanalyzed, and all this stuff, and took the test. And I'm a borderline. I'm not a full categorical psychopath. I'm what you call a pro-social psychopath. Sounds nice. It's also called a successful psychopath, which basically means you haven't been caught. So one reason you don't know me is because I've been hiding all these years, and you didn't quite know that.
I mean it in the sense that this reality is under the control of psychopaths right now, right? We can all agree that much, right? We can all agree that much, yeah? And because they've set the standard in across the board, right? Whether it's the sexual, romantic, corporate, you name it, they are the standard of climbing whatever ladder it is you want to climb, right? Because they've set that standard, what does that mean? It means to be as successful, as famous, as recognized, as rich as you think you should be, you need to become as psychopathic as possible. You need to become as literally a psychopath. Because to run a company to the point that it gets to a $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, and so on, at that point, the company has a life of its own. You're like the brain of the company, okay? You're the brain of the company. And companies are basically have the same rights as human beings do, if not more. In fact, I think they do have more rights than we do. Literally, a company as an entity, a corporation, has more rights than you as a human being. Isn't that just like, if anything in this reality is psychopathic to me, is that it's that fact that corporations are entities that are treated like flesh and blood human beings without the consequences of being a flesh and blood human being. And because so many people don't want to believe that what they're aiming towards is literally psychopathic, the only way for them to learn is to be shown by someone who was created to do just that. And the best thing about it is that psychopaths themselves didn't even ask to be here, just like we didn't ask to be here. But because we conceive of ourselves as so deeply empathetic and feeling of the world, and all these fake ass platitudes that give people a false sense of belonging in this reality. We don't belong here. We don't. Right? And a psychopath knows this from the day that they're born. Right? As soon as they can process and have cognition and everything, they know this as a complete fact. They don't even have to struggle to know this. They just do. Here's the thing. Most psychopaths are pro-social. Right? They're not anti-social. They are pro-social. I'll link the video. There's a researcher. I was watching a video of him presenting and then talking about specifically psychopathy and how he was when he was researching it, he ended up finding out that he himself was a psychopath, right? And he asked his friends and his family, and the way that they described him was literally as a psychopath, but he didn't think of himself that way, right? Even so, he's still a functioning member of society, and pretty much doesn't like harm anyone or brutalize anyone in the sense that we've been taught to believe about psychopathy. They are pro-social. So what are those driving factors that keep them pro-social, right? And even then, this isn't even to fearmonger, because it's the selectively empathic people who enable the most evil. To me, the biggest problem we have is simply complacency for the worst kinds of things and a resistance to the things that would help us the most. That's what I think humanity's problem is at this stage. It's complacency that got us this far, if you really look at it, right? Hyperconsumerism, how do you think that works? How do you think that happens, right? People just consume like there's no tomorrow. And, I understand that people have their ways of coping in this reality and everything. It's not the coping that I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with people coping. I have a problem with people believing that they have the answers to every question and the keys to every door. For you to see a change in your reality, because of that hyperconsumerism and instant gratification, a lot of corporate propaganda as well, people are led to believe that it's all in their hands, it's all their fault, it's all their responsibility. You have to be a conscious consumer. Let me tell you right now, all the devices that we're using, the device I'm recording on right now, my laptop, my phone, you name it, the internal microchips, whatever you want to call them, right? The internal workings of these devices, the raw material for them, most times comes from literally like bloodshed and child slavery. This is well known to us at this point, I would hope, right? A lot of the minerals that are in our phones right now are like they're only in very few places in the world, and those places in the world happen to be extremely poor, and they have copious amounts of these minerals. They should be really rich, but they're really poor, right? That's why you end up with a lot of child slavery for people who had children to work for them, to feed them, and like parents having children to feed the parents, right? It's this incredible levels of stupidity, and I could go on about it, but you get what I mean. There's only so many ways you can consume ethically in this reality, right? To be able to function. And because we have to have these, I mean, you could call them necessary evils, right? But one necessary evil creates 3, creates 5, creates 7, and so on and so on. These necessary evils, and it really brings me back to that I find the asymmetrical argument very stupid. Pain, pleasure. Because it only takes that little amount, it only takes a very small amount of exploitation for people to justify in their minds why they should continue widespread participation in exploitation. That's all it takes, right? If you tell somebody that planned obsolescence is why you constantly get a new phone every year when your old phone works absolutely fine, that things are built to break, to be replaced and to break, as like imagine like for example, if you bought a ladder in the 1990s, guaranteed you're still using it right now, right? But if you bought a ladder if you bought a ladder 5 years ago, there's a good chance it's already rusting or it's in some ways unstable, and yet the ladder you bought in the 90s is still functioning just fine, like quite well, much better than newer models. Why is that? Because they realized they can sell people less for more, and they'll keep buying, and they won't question it. Complacency. This is why I say, if you can look at your environment right now, wherever it is, your university, the supermarket you go to, the events you like to go to, places you hang out in, even your own bedroom, this isn't like a means to cause, I don't know, not even guilt or not even like paranoia in your mind. It's more so to just realize, this stuff didn't get here by accident, right? How the journey from point A to point B, for whatever it is you're looking at, has a huge backstory behind it. It has a huge backstory behind it, but because we treat them as everyday objects, we don't see the significance. And our world is just pushing information in front of our eyes so much all the time that we can't even focus on the last thing we read or the last thing we watched. I watch YouTube videos every day, all the time, and I can tell you right now, I can't even remember the last YouTube video I watched, and I just watched one like half an hour ago. That's how bad it is. It's a world where psychopaths, it's heaven for psychopaths. It is. It's heaven for a psychopath. Because psychopaths in particular need constant, excessive stimulation. Constantly. Constantly, because, you're a sentient being, but you're a sentient being with no emotions. And your brain recognizes that, and it's trying to get you to feel something. But it's not happening, right? So it's one reason why boredom, persistent boredom, is like usually a signal for psychopathy, some level of psychopathy. Like if you're just constantly like straight up bored, and then not only boredom, but the need for stimulation and excessive stimulation very often is usually like a precursor to knowing or seeing that somebody's psychopathic. So we know we live in a psychopathic world run by psychopathic CEOs, driven by literally psychopathic algorithms. And we still want to demonize the average psychopath? Right? That's why I'm telling you, we need more of these people. We need more of them, not less of them. Because then you can literally say, hey, this guy never had empathy to begin with, right? You can judge him, you can say whatever you want, but he was dead on arrival. He, she, they, them, whatever. They were dead on arrival, right? You then have to ask yourself, why would you strive to follow somebody like that who was dead on arrival, right? It took somebody like that to show you that all of us are dead on arrival. But you want to virtue signal and act like, oh, I'm just such a feeling, empathetic, emotional, conscientious being, like I'm definitely better than people who can't feel, I can't be worse than them, right? It's always, at least I'm not as bad off as that guy. That's the driving force of so many people. It's either at least I'm not as bad off as that guy, or you try and actively tear down the guy who you think is better than you. That's the world we live in. So if you had more and more people who were just, I would say in some ways immune to your attempts, because there's dumb psychopaths, there's smart psychopaths, right? Generally though, it's more about, your tactics will not work on this person, whatever you do. And they've already defeated you in doing that. I think for a lot of people, that would be a very telling wake-up call for them to realize, like, so you mean we're just birthing more living units into the system and sapping them of their own empathy and sentience to turn them into not even robots, man. Robots are more useful than what human beings are turned into right now. What they're being turned into right now. Robots are way more useful. Trust me. Trust me. And they're less uh uh the human beings are more replaceable than robots, let me say, right? We flatter ourselves by calling by insinuating that the ruling class just wants worker drones or robots. No, they want worse than that. They might want they want just enough robots. The rest of you are consumers. The rest of you are monetizable items for the corporations, for the ruling class. They don't need that many worker drones. And the more technologically advanced we become, while it's a good thing, if it's in the hands of the people who are operating them right now, it's going to lead to a place where employment becomes a form of escapism. A 9 to 5 job will become the new escapism. At the path that we're going down, the more there is no end to instant gratification, and I think these billionaires know this about us. So if they know this about us, they could make predictions for the next 5 years about our behavior and just invest in the right companies or tank the right companies or pay off the right politicians or start the trend themselves. So what exactly is our empathy doing for us right now if so many people are just trying to emulate psychopaths anyways? Might as well be psychopaths to begin with, cut the middleman out. Cut the empathy middleman out. Just be the psychopath, right? Stop trying to pretend like you actually give a fuck. Stop trying to pretend like you actually have any sort of compassion or like any second thought to the things you're doing, right? Just stimulate yourself. Just constantly stimulate yourself and do as thou wilt, right? But maybe that's too idealistic. I don't know. I know the rates of narcissistic personality disorder have increased over the years. Who knew? Maybe social media had something to do. I don't know, right? But that's a narcissism. Narcissism is not. It's not a very smart ideology. Narcissists are not smart people. They're not. They are. First of all, they're dead people. They are dead people mourning the life that will never exist. That's what a narcissist is. Mourning that you, the object they're trying to place in their life, will never be able to place themselves in the shoes of the narcissist to mourn what the narcissist will never be. It's a very deranged ideology, right? However, when you mix that with psychopathy, you get somebody who is literally like the manifestation of evil. Because they know they're already smarter than most people. They can see through a lot of the current how do I explain it? They can see through reality as it is, but they're nefarious. They are evil by nature, and they will do whatever it takes to cement that as their existence. That they're as evil as possible, and I don't think everyone can be redeemed. I don't. Not everyone can be redeemed. Not everyone is going to be able to redeem themselves. So it's a lot of different catch-22s that we really try and justify about this place. But I hope at least you understand why I say what I say. I say the things I say. I title my titles like this because I know most people will never even bother to watch it. And I hope, like, if you make yourself such an easy target, you deserve to be targeted like that. If you can't even expend enough brain power to ask yourself how this message was crafted, what for, critical thinking, you deserve it then, What can I say? Don't make it easy for people. Just don't.